Hello class, my name is Martinez and this is week 6 assignment, Applications of Security Principles. Working remotely has become a common theme in many workplaces. Working off-site helps businesses and workers remain productive in time of medical and environmental challenges. However, working from home can have disadvantages for the IT department. Working remotely opens a business to a wide variety of vulnerabilities. Sensitive information can now be easily stolen from a company device over a USB within the privacy of an employee's home. Apart from the weakening of existing controls, new risks are generated as more employees work off-site. Employees who work remotely can become the biggest threat to a company's network security. Working from home can cause a business to experience data breaches, identity theft, and can introduce malware, spyware, and viruses. Let's discuss 8 security failures and how they violate the foundational principles in cybersecurity. Multi-factor authentication can be one of the most important process implementations a business can have for remote workers. A hacker can gain access to usernames and passwords via phishing, malware, and social engineering attacks. Multi-factor authentication works by adding a second layer for verification, thus adding a second layer of protection. A second security failure that is common within many organizations, whether employees are working on-site or off-site, is having a weak password. User passwords should be managed by the IT department in the security policy. A security policy should enforce a password with a minimum of 8 characters that include numbers, special characters, uppercase and lowercase letters. Furthermore, the password should be changed every 60 days, and the same password cannot be reused within a year. While organizations may think to encrypt information that is stored on their network's database, they may not consider encrypting data when it is in transit from one place to another. Without the proper safeguards in place, a business can become victim to a cyber attack and lose crucial data. This security failure violates the principles of confidentiality and availability because stolen data can be shared with the rest of the world and may become unavailable to the business. Many workers will have no choice but to use personal devices and home networks to get their job done. There are many problems using personal devices for work. For example, an employee can be using a personal device for work while connected to an unsecured wireless network from the airport or a coffee shop. Another issue is downloading an app or game containing a virus that could find its way to the business network. Third is accidental data loss. If an employee loses a device used for work, it can also lose vital business information. Patch management can become a time-consuming task for any IT department. However, when most or all the workforce is working remotely, a new set of challenges can be introduced to the IT department. For instance, patching can take up most resources to complete the task. In addition, patching must ensure that downtime is at a minimum. Also, the inventory list of what needs to be updated may not be correct, leaving behind systems with outdated applications. Patching is a crucial element of security. Patching is important because software can become vulnerable with time and can be exploited by hackers. Data that is backed up can be vulnerable if the proper steps from IT and the users are not taken. Safeguarding backed up data is an effort that everyone in the organization must partake in. For example, users must be properly trained on password security, using encryption for file sharing, avoiding connections to unsecure networks, and being able to identify and report suspicious emails. On the other hand, the IT department must ensure that all software is up to date, develop strict security policies, and have multi-layer security levels to protect all the data. A failure at either endpoint will violate all 3 security principles, and the impact will affect confidentiality, integrity, and the availability of data. According to Hines, Joyson, and Williams, the most important cyber threat to remote employees is phishing strategies. Phishing schemes involve an individual or entity pretending to be a legitimate source over email to fool a victim into providing private login credentials, privileged information which can be used to break into accounts, steal more confidential information, perform identity fraud, and much more. Phishing emails have become so sophisticated that it is increasingly becoming more challenging for employees to notice them. A failure to recognize email scams and phishing attacks can violate the confidentiality principles of the CIA triad. Software vulnerabilities can be caused by a flaw in the program's design or there's an error in the program code. These weaknesses can be detected by a hacker to steal or manipulate sensitive data. In addition, the hacker can even install malware to gain access to another network host and gain the ability to move around various networks. Employees working from home must be properly trained and understand that software on their personal device must be updated constantly to ensure patches are downloaded and applied to their own software. This failure can have an impact on the three main principles to cybersecurity. With the use of the three foundational principles in cybersecurity known as the CIA triad, implementing fundamental security design principles can help guide the development of security policies that are robust for a workforce that works remotely. For each of the 8 security failures, I will explain how the design principles were violated. Complete mediation will first check if permissions are granted prior to accessing the data. Failure to authenticate the user will violate this principle by granting access to the company's data. Least privilege design principle will give the user the minimum access to perform their job duties. If a user is not set for least privilege access, a hacker can gain access to sensitive information if the user's passwords is stolen. Encapsulation is a method by which direct access to some components of the data are restricted. Unencrypted file sharing can expose all data that is shared between users, therefore violating this design principle. Modularity helps to renew the security structure without changing the whole system. This design principle can be violated as the demand for remote work increases and security policies evolve. Simplicity of design is a principle that keeps processes simple and easy to follow. Patching can become chaotic when more and more employees work remotely. A design to simplify this process must be developed to remain consistent with patch management. Isolation is a design principle that keeps data secure from critical assets. A breach to the data server is a violation of this principle. Fail-safe defaults. Fail-secure is a design principle that restricts data unless specific access is given to a user. A hacker can steal an employee's credentials through email scams or phishing attacks and proceed to access sensitive data. Minimization limits the amount of unnecessary data not relevant to job duties. Excessive data that is not relevant to the job needs to be removed to include unused software. Design principles must be taken into consideration when implementing a security policy. These design principles can be used as a guide to address specific failures in a system. Businesses must create a security policy specifically designed for remote workers. The first recommended design principle for remote workers should be complete mediation. This principle is valuable because if an employee's password is compromised, a hacker will only have limited data based on the role of the user. This principle also prevents the caching of information. The second is encapsulation. This principle limits a hacker to partial data. Fail-safe defaults, fail-secure is a third design principle that should be taken into consideration. This principle will keep the integrity of data safe unless specific data is given to a user. Minimization is the fourth recommended design principle. Remote workers must not be able to store data on their remote devices. Unused data can have valuable information for a hacker to use against an organization. In conclusion, safeguarding the principles of the CIA triad and partnering with the fundamental security design principles will ensure the security of data and resources as the IT department strives to accommodate remote workers in an ever-changing work environment. Thank you so much. This concludes my presentation. Have a good evening.